Pakitabi na mata na liliw. Ilay na non dan tabi batikir na lubenda. Menda tukon na sana nakangan da tukon na chike. Menda tukon na vir na lubenda. Gelibunangona, we continue to do the things in the church, getting carried away with the excitement of the spiritual realm and the spiritual element of living, that we forget to check our children, the level of their spirituality and the maturity of them knowing God. And I can, boldly say today, or to admit today, that I wasn't very good in doing that. I failed to do that. I failed that with my daughter. I failed that with my children. I failed that with my eldest daughter. Because when the ministry started, or the ministry that we belong to started, we get carried away doing all these things. We do the things of God, but I was neglecting my role as a mother. Because going out, talking to these youth, taking the group of youths, we travel from this place to that place. Yeah, my children were part of it. They were part of it. The fasting, everything that was happening, they were all part of it. They were all going with us. But I failed to check how matured and how spiritual things that I see, that I'm feeling it. What about my children? Are they feeling it? Do they understand exactly why I have understood what I'm doing? But not until she rebelled and go out into the world, then I don't blame her. I don't solely blame her 100%. She may be part of the blame because she made that decision, but I was to be blamed as well. I blame myself for being a mother, and not only just a mother, but being a mother in the church that talks about the things of God, that has impacted lives around me, but I failed to impact my daughter's life, to check on her spirituality, on how mature it was, or whether she is, towing tagging with me to really understand or to be where I am. I got carried away with the things that I was doing, that I failed to do that check. And that is, for me, making that mistake, took her more than nearly 3 decades for her to come back. And to come back to the reality of the God that she knew or she was born into. And now I don't want that mistake, to repeat that mistake with my grandchildren. And that is why I was telling them, like when we have a devotion, I said, we can be traveling. This is from my standpoint. I can be standing in front of thousands to speak to the youth. I can travel to the world and share and talk about the God that I serve in every, spiritual assignment for the ministry that we belong in. And I was telling them, for me, my best moment, I was telling them the devotion, all these things, they're good. I'm talking, either they listen or they do whatever that I'm sharing. That's their choices. But for me, my best moment is devotion at home. I don't look forward to all this. Yeah, I can be part of it, but I don't look forward to it. It's not that I'm excited for it. I am, but not as excited as I am with the devotion. And I was telling them, this is my best moment. My best moment is a devotion. Because my best moment is seeing your lives impacted with what I'm sharing, so I can see the change in you. And then when you grow up and you live, you will take that maturity. The mistake that I had made with my children, I try not to repeat it for my grandchildren. So we can talk about the spirituality, but for those of us that are already in it and we are already in church, when they give these numbers for HIV and they give the numbers for drugs and all this percentage statistically for Fiji, I wouldn't be surprised that part of that sets are the children, our children, the children that go to church. Not only the children that go to church, the children of the very ones that are standing up at the pew and preaching the word of God. They are our children. Because at one stage, one of those children was my daughter. So it's a reality of things that people don't want to talk about. People don't admit what I'm admitting today because we want to put up a show like everything is okay. You're very spiritual. No, spirituality is not a show. A spirituality, it becomes part of life. Spirituality is something that you need to treat it to grow. Just like when you look at your mental and you look at your physical, like if you don't have a car or don't have a house and you begin to write it down and you achieve because of the strength you have. Or in the in the physical or in the mental, like you grow from school, you go to university, you have a degree, get master's right up to a PhD. That's your growth. The spirituality element of your life needs to grow as well. It doesn't stay, it's just going to church every Sundays. It doesn't stay there. It has to be more than that. Just as you have embarked and go different levels up for these two elements of your human being a human, then this has to grow with them, which means it's just not a Sunday church goer. You need to treat this spirituality on your connection with the Creator just like you treat this too. So you grow in it too. You become matured in it. So when you look at the two and whatever they should do, this becomes the spirituality element of your life, becomes a defining moment for these two elements, as in physical and mental, because this is the one that we always, like neglect a lot of times.
The only little bit different is you can measure mental and physical, but in spirituality for those believe in Jesus, because regardless of how spiritual, you still fall short.
Yeah.
The only growth
will be your maturity
is when you believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
Only Jesus can complete that spirituality.
Yeah.
Your physical growth does not complete you, because we always fall short of the glory of God. So we can grow to only a certain level. Our completion is through the death of Jesus Christ that make us complete. And
because that spirituality, automatically that becomes Jesus. For us who believe in Jesus. So when we believe in Jesus, then that becomes that spirituality of your living.
What I'm saying, our accepted into this spirituality with God is through Jesus. It's by faith because of His love. Nothing else. Our good works is a filthy rag. So we can grow physically, we can go mentally, go education level, continue to grow. It's unlimited. But in the spirit,
in the
only
spirit,
God.
it defines you when it comes to the elements of your heart, being a kind-hearted, good-hearted person, forgiving, caring. Because when that spirituality matures, this is what I mean. You will not be divorcing. You will not be having extramarital affairs. You will not be lying to your employers. You will not be sitting in the office doing other things that is not related to your workplace. That is what I mean. When this spirituality is good, then it defines your IQ and also define your physical living because of that connection with your God.
Because spirituality reduces those. It reduces. But
it helps you.
I'm just talking from the holiness of God that nobody can achieve. So we can eliminate, reduce, but we cannot cancel altogether.
And no one is
that's
perfect.
why
no one is perfect.
Our spiritual life it's unlimited. You can still grow and grow and grow. When you grow physically, it'll come to a point you can own the whole world. You go to a professor, that's it. It's limited. But when you go into spirit life,
until death,
and that's why the death is when you go through that door called death, which is the beginning of a conversation. That's when you receive the spirituality that you leave this side.
But I guess people don't even want to talk about death. They don't want to look at death. So the beyond death and after death, people don't want to know after death.
And that's why we live this life here.
And that's why, like when people don't come to church. People don't look at church as the need to go to church or it's a need to serve God, because they're not even looking at death and after death. That's not even in their brain, in their mind. So it's hard to say, you're doing this thing because after death you will be, these things will be fine. So we don't want to talk about it. We don't even want to think about death and after death. So if we have to talk to somebody about spirituality, we will not talk. For me, I will not talk about after death, because when I talk after death, it doesn't make any sense to this person that I'm talking to.
What I do, I normally talk about hell.
Yes, then that's reality.
When you talk about hell or heaven, that's when people make decisions. Are you going to go to hell? If you want to go to hell, this is what you're living. Because people they don't realize that there is a hell. That's why we're living this life.
Yes.
But when you tell them or put a show or drama, like a drama message on hell, or people will rush in. They want to surrender because they know this is the end of this life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we're not here to preach to you. We are bringing to the table things that we would like to discuss this morning. That we started this conversation or this table talk. Yeah, when the death is there, it's at the door, and I'm actually sharing it with my grandchildren to tell them, to tell them that gone are the days that you get old and then you die and you aged and then you die. Those days are gone now. Like the deaths that we are, actually seeing now is very young. I mean, for HIV, the youngest is a 2-year-old, a 1-year-old child. And so death is at the doorstep, right at the doorstep. And you can be achieving as much, but you're not sure of your tomorrow because you don't determine your death because you don't plan death. Well, back to the conversation that I've had with one of our staff that had his dad who had just passed on. So when we were talking in the office, I was asking him, okay, what help do you need? What else do you think that we can assist you with? And how's your mom taking it? And then he shared that on that Friday, we had a team that is supposed to go to do a coverage in the Western Division, and he was one of them. He said, my dad is not, he's sickly. He's sickly. Every now and then he needs to go, but he will not tell me. He will not call him or tell him. But he said, but on that day, on that Friday, he called him, and he said, I knew at that moment when he's telling me, which means it's serious. So he called our director to say that he's not able to be part of the team, and I must thank Stanley, who actually advised him not to come, not to be part of the team, just to stay and look after the dead. Well, he took him to the hospital, and then he said he knew, and the father also knew that he was going. So Saturday, when he went to the hospital, when he looked at his dad, he always had this weakness, of one of his hand that he hardly, used. But he said, as he entered the ward, looking at his dad, when his dad saw him, the hand that he hardly used, he used, like to wave him. He said when he looked, he knew that, that his dad is actually going. So he came, they were talk about a lot of things. And he said, to the end, he told me that he was going. So he said, we just prayed. And after we prayed, and that's it. So he went back home. When he came home, and his mom looked at him and said, how come you came back early? Go back and stay with your dad. So he said, I'm hungry. I want to come home and eat something. So he came home. The mother prepared the food. They sat down to it. He said, when they sat down to eat it, it's when he turned to her and said that he's passed on, So when we were discussing the things that he would need or the little help that we can offer, and I was asking him, what about the VVV? And then this is what he said. My mom had already prepared, My mom had already prepared. We are all good. Nearly everything I was asking him, he said, we are good. What about this? Oh, we are good. What about this? Oh, we are good. And that's why I want to bring here. Sometimes we have elderly parents. For those of you that are living abroad, always remember that your parents will not live forever. Or for those of us that are here in Fiji as well, beka ko ni chika nonda vakanana no ira nonda ditumutumir na senga ni mate. And nando na ngona ira na takali. Kaya bal da sini bi mama na manataka na mate. Meronga ni tiko nonda vakanana no menda tika bu marro so na kambi ta baka tiki mengo na yada kina na singa yada kina. Menda ka ko ni vivi aki. Menda baka roti ki kenda ninda nang garba binaka na nonda tubutumbu. And ngona yada kina na lenga baya me ka ko ni onge vivi ke mo lilona. Se watu nela kola korala ko me menge me di bakikina na songo. And dondono me tu na kaya barota ki bakanda vite di ni lelevu. Ivinaka. Balaterra ni do tau solitoka. Sendo na kando bita toka batiki Sendora kando sa ating ubitan lo tak mendokai reda na se otai ro seng stuti mbula vinaka embula toto bimate do ke baka rambula toto bimate bangara na da medical opportunities itu era ni bambala butiki kina balele nambula yo esang talai ni kotele bina vitan no ni kandaron vitan lo tak na mengrabi bakadava ni resembula talenga asono nandana kada kana ko ik saba mana tak na mat seng tarongira ningon na nado kina no musinga balata nanda na senga nimbola tunga bakandua natabay ko marota kami da kabiko balata au bakambota ningon na reta kaliki na kibaka enda lomanan din na nambula kenda nada kabasaranga na karvina kata me baka ne oto tinika enda nada kabavira ele bonangona etu na karvina kata medaka kenda da kabatalindo talena ka e baka enda senga ni lomanan nambula ko may satakali balata na songoya embaleti koya e senga ni baleti kenda io e sono kalalevaya au bakambota e bina kamenda vital notaka it's good for us to talk about it because like if when you have elderly parents or sickly parents don't ever assume to think that they're going to live forever. One day they will go and for me I mean I'm not as sickly. I had liver fatty liver on my medical check but according to our family doctor it's reversible so I worked at it. Well, it was reversed when I went in for my medical, all cleared. But I always have this conversation with my grandchildren, and I always tell them, one day Nana will not be here. And I told my children, my two that are actually physically staying with me, for my one only son, and my daughter, I usually tell them, okay, when I die, this and that and that. So I'm writing little notes that I want to legalize it, that when I pass, and I've been telling them, when something happened to me, the only thing left is for me to book the graveyard and book the place to have the service, because I cannot determine the year. But I tell them what to be done. And I said, when I pass on, I need you people not to do any rengu-rengu. You people come, tell everybody to wear white, come and celebrate a life that has gone. Only have sandwiches, and that's it. Because people have their lives to go back to. And you people know that I am in a better place than this. Yeah. So I talk about those things, and sometimes they feel uncomfortable. It's when I talk about death, or I talk about that I'm going to go one day, or even to my grandchildren, I see them teary. I can freely talk about that because my parents have passed on, and not only that, because I'm confident with my life, thinking, knowing what is to come. And I know the repercussion and of the decisions that I've made, and I know where it will take me. So I know exactly where I'm going and what to do. And I don't want to leave it to the end when that happened and for them to, run around and do all these things. No, I want them to know that I'm in a good place. And I'm telling my grandchildren now, know that Nana will not be here with you all the time. I will need you to work through this. I will need you to work hard. I need you to get through your secondary schooling. If you want to go straight to work after year 12, year 13, that's your choice. But if you want to go tertiary, remember, I'm here. And whatever choice that you make, I want you to make that right choice to live independently. Whatever that you do, live like Nana is not here. And when I have that kind of conversation with them, they feel a little bit worried or teary. And I said, it's not that I'm going to go tomorrow or go soon, but it's that kind of talk that I'm making happen. I don't want them, when something happened in my life, and for them to feel lost. They don't know what to do. I am training them or gearing them that day will come. It's either this year or next year or 10 years time, but it will happen. And when that happens, I want them to be ready. And I say, you will miss me, but you are good. You are good. So whatever that I'm telling you now, if I'm telling you, okay, work harder on your grades, do your study, make sure you do this, don't do that. When I'm telling you that, it's not for my gain, it's for your gain. Because I'm training you to live independently. And said, I don't want you to rely on your uncle or rely on your aunties, because they already have their lives of their own. They have their own family to look after. So I am the only person that are looking after you, and I want you to grow up independently, knowing that you can look after yourself, that you're not looking around for help. because you know fully well where you're going to and what decisions that you need to make. And that is why I always zero in to their spirituality, to tell them all these things easy for you to achieve. I mean, my 19-year-old, he's actually sold his first car. He's on to his second car. He's only 19, hasn't started his tertiary. And I've trained them in that kind of a life for them to be matured, and don't wait until you work and then you achieve things. It's within your reach, within your ability to achieve it. Write down your list, and I push them to their spirituality, for them to be connected to this God. And I always tell them that this God, when you serve Him well, He gives you the maturity, He gives you the wisdom, He raises your level of faith. When you're looking at the same thing, when other people will say no, cannot, you will say yes, it can. When other people will say I'll wait until a few years, you will say with my God I can do it now, because I train them and help them to raise their level of faith, to know that their spirituality is a determining factor when it comes to the physical and the mental. For them not to only rely on these two, but to rely on this. Not to trust this, but trust this. Trust God, but enjoy this, go around with this, but trust God. Well, that's what I'm doing to my grandchildren, and I'm enjoying doing that. Like what I said, we speak to conferences, we travel the world to do this, what we do in the church. I enjoy doing that. I believe that God has ordained us to do that. But for me, my special and my best calling is to my family, to my grandchildren, the devotion, the very I would say the very moment or the very service that people run away from or they don't like because it's only their family. But for me, that's my best. Because it's no use when you go and when you leave this world, all these people have got their lives and they move on. They hear you, yeah, they learn, they change, but they have their own lives. What about your family, the one you're leaving behind? So having that conversation with that staff on Thursday, for me, it was very, it's like a reminder. Like what I said this morning, I thought of having a replay for this program, but that brought me to the forum, brought me to the table this morning, just to pose this question: are you ready? And look around you and be realistic with things that you're going through. If you know that your parents are aging, know it. If you know yourself that you are sickly, so no mate to biko tiko iko kila ikusenga ni 100% bula vinaka, kibla ikusando dono mo kila. Ningon iko vandala kata kini sana kasi iko kene sana kakani sin dono mo kania. Iko sa kila sartu nga na karunya na mo bula. Na repercussion ninonda dingin. Kiba katang sinto ko na nondong bula. Esa na dono tala menda tigabu planta ka ng bula. Ikiba kayanda na lako na rabayado wana nonda matapo vale. Indon marama kito ko talaga mendo ngona na family table to ko kila minister ngodi ko ayaw tise ngona do replay kina na program. Nangona melanga kina non tota e kele tunga na motoka e sanga ni kila nan driver. E kele tunga. O ko sa may baki ono sanga bulubanda. She's, actually more than 60, then she's getting her driving license. And these are the things that I'm talking about. Like when you are living together, don't assume, because I would think that they will think to themselves, no one is going to die. We will be alive forever. Or we will die together. But that doesn't happen. You will need to live your life. Don't ever think that you're going to be together for the rest of your life. Then you're not going to die. You will die one day. That's realistic. And when you live today, try and prepare them. Kaya baka ito ko na moto ka taranga. Kaya baka ito na kanado viko, iko sa tiga bu plantag. Okay, kaya baka mandangay sa ganin doon reba. Okay, kaya baka ito ko wala mo no kaya kero kinakuha ngayon reba, o sin doon reba. Ang ngayon reba nga, nung nga sinjiki na ko, kaya baka kero lakon duin na vono kero lakina, ang ngayon reba. Kaya baka kito kero tiko bata se tiko ko ivale, okay ngayon reba tiko. Iya, dodono nga mo buli na nan reba. Iya. Dodono. Iya.
Baltan da sanga tuni kila.
Kila na kaya na yan.
Ko baka samta ka ni ko ta mo talang do taka. Nanon to tu may nandi. Di mo ka sorry ula ko. Indo na baki.
Iya.
Kaya balik ka baka ko sanga ni taka taka tagi ko. Mo abulin reba na ko na. Kaya balik ka kel tu mo to ka. Indo na baki. Baltan ko na kenda baka kenda sanga ni ready to na non do bisi ni mata.
Iya. Pala tanong na kirusta ta kino ko ngali vuli Thailand nandun na yung baki. Yo kwento na reba tunga kakit Nangono sa kilakina ko sa varlo ko sa kaukiwa Bolivia ng river. Yan do tal no. Sometimes it's good just to go to the driving school. Just go to the driving school.
The worst teacher.
The worst driver, the worst instructor is your husband. Worst. And I know a lot of women will be testament to that. Just go to the driving school. Because when you make the mistake, you were good. And because I hear that a lot. Do you hear that a lot? A lot of women, they always say that. And, well, he was teaching me, being my instructor. And, oh, man. And up until the time he flew out, I haven't got my license. I don't know how to drive. So when I worked at the Port Denarau, the very first hotel that actually started off there was the Regent of Fiji. I don't know what it's called now. It was the Regent of Fiji. And I worked there. I started there when I was only, 16 years old. And it's quite a drive. It's quite long. If you miss the stop bus, that's it. You find it's either you stand on the road flagging or you find your own transport. So we used to use that routing for learning. And boy, your husbands are the worst driving instructors. I don't know whether wives teach the husband, but it's mostly the husband teaching the wives. And most of the time he's yelling. Because, like for the driving school, what I mean for you to go to the driving school, the instructor has got exactly the same. Like if you're not pressing the brake, he can do that for you. So you have your own, while he has his own. And that's why it's different. And they don't yell. The driving instructors don't yell. But the husbands, not only yell, they scream at you. Well, every time it's brake, brake, brake. In your learning, you don't, sometimes you're confused. Which one is the brake? The one in the middle or the one on the side? And then you brake, you fly to the front. And keep on going, keep on going. And one time, and you're learning the clutch. I don't like manual because you're learning the clutch. And sometimes when you don't release your foot on time,
Engine stop.
jerks, and then the engine just stop. And we used to have that issue. So, and then he'll be saying, 2, gear 2, 3, up, 1. And sometimes you're confused. You don't have to go like that. And one time he did that, and we were going towards the Narawa Road before you turn into Port Denarau. And he was yelling and said, and then in the midst of changing the gear, he said, brake, brake. There was something, like in the front. One car was at the front. Brake. Boy, I don't know what to do. And I brake, and that I nearly bumped the car in front, and he was screaming his head off. And after that, he said, I told you to do the brake. I told you to press the brake. I just left the car, and I walk it. I Route 11. He picked the car to pick me. I didn't want to look. I just kept on walking. I walked all the way to Namaka. We were staying at the quarters. That was my last lesson. So after he left, waved to him. He went to Thailand, and I registered myself to a driving school. Thank you, Dorothy. I believe the sons are actually, that's one of the driving school, the very longest one in Nandi. Dorothy Driving School. And got my license. And if he wasn't going for that 1 year, I don't think that I would have gone out of my way to get my driving license. But I did. So after I get my driving license, and this is what I did to my children, as they reached, before it was 16. Once they reach 16, they can get their license. But now they've changed it to 17. And I program my children. As soon as they reach 16, they get their license. So all my children, instead of my eldest one, because she was not with us then, all of them, they got their driving license when they are only 16. And I'm doing that with my grandchildren. When they reach the age of 17, they're getting their driving license. So, I don't only rest with my children and my grandchildren and my family, also the people around me. I continue to ask them, do you have a driving license? You need to get it. And some of the ladies, and I know they will be testament to this, through my humble kitchen and the friends that I've kept over the years in the ministry. And now I see one of them, Anna, all the way in California, in Santa Rosa. Anna. A lot of women I have invested in their lives, paying for their driving classes for them to get their driving license. And I test them. For the ones who work with me, then I'll tell them, okay, you take me to Tapos, or you take me to MHCC. And sometimes when you come to MHCC, like that uphill parking, like they give up, okay, in the night, you come and practice. Okay, take your time. I won't be with you, but you take your time, practice. And another time, I told Anna, okay, you will drive me to the west, and we have to go the Kingsway. And she said, I haven't driven to the west. Okay, make it your first. So we were going. Don't worry if you make mistake. It's all right. So we went. And another time, everywhere I go, because she was working at my TV. So I would tell her, okay, Anna, you pick me up from the office, or pick me up from work, from home. And now when I get in with Anna, she's now living in Santa Rosa. And I get in with Anna. Oh, the last time that we went, it was like a few months of 1 year, a few months after they got the green card and they moved to America. And when we were in Sacramento, so I turned to her at the kitchen. I said, you know how to drive? Have you driven here? And she said, a little bit. I said, okay, can you just take me? And she said, no, I can't take you. I can get Talangasi to come and drive. I'm not really, confident to drive here. And I said, okay, that's fine. And then on the second trip up, after that, well, I have to tell her to slow down. Now she mastered the highway. And she masters the highway. The GPS, what works, what doesn't work, the corners, if I'm looking for something. And because of her work, because she works in this place where she stays, and then her weekend work takes her across the bridge to San Francisco. So just by living her life daily, have given her this experience. And now she becomes my driver. When I come to America, no other person that I want to take me other than Anna. She knows exactly where to go and what to do. Well, it starts off from somebody who never knew how to drive. I struggled to drive uphill on the MHCC parking or Tapus City parking, and even to drive to the west. Now she becomes an expert in driving. So, back to what we are discussing today. Look around your family, and even though the car belongs to you, but look at your wife or look at your husband, if you're the wife who is driving, and look at your children.
Yeah, it's all
if they have become of age, then get them to get their driving license.
All the preparation of
what is to come.
Yeah, is to come. Because most of the time, we are not looking forward for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like we live just for today. The less preparation for tomorrow, because we don't want to arrive to tomorrow. No, that's why we continue to live like this. No driving license, no passport, because we never thought that one day we will leave our country.
Yeah.
But if we think for tomorrow, what tomorrow will bring, then today is a time of preparation.
Yeah.
The reason why we are not preparing well, like